Hi everybody, my name's Laura. I work for a company called Dynamo PR, and we have a specialist crowdfunding division. We launched it about 3 years ago now with 3Doodler, which is a 3D printing pen. I don't know if a lot of you have seen it. It's now onto the third iteration. And so we've learned a lot over the last few years about the industry in general, the media landscape, but also what is needed to make a really successful campaign. So the stats for successful campaigns, so this is in terms of Kickstarter, 15% of projects finish with no pledges, but almost 80% that raise more than 20% of their goal then become successfully funded. So here are some stats from the Kickstarter website. So you can see the successfully funded products there. Technology is right down at the bottom. And then you can see, so from the 4,000 successfully funded projects, only 50 of them raised over $1 million. We're lucky to have a lot of inbound and technology projects that come to us to ask us to do the PR for their campaign. And I'd say 9 out of 10 would like to raise, or think they are going to raise $1 million. The stats are very, very low, as you can see. So it's part of our job to work out what gives us the greatest chance of hitting that $1 million. So the examples that people always use when they come to us are Coolest Cooler. But what they don't realise is that Coolest Cooler actually has a project before their really successful one. And so that one had 279 backers and only raised 102,000, which in itself is still a good total, but didn't actually hit their funding goal. So it was unsuccessful. It then relaunched, and you can see there from Ryan's campaign, it then went from 127 to 62,500 and raised over $13 million. It's the same product, slightly different features, slightly different look, but essentially it was the same project. So The Verge, the technology publication, actually interviewed him. And this is what he had to say. So the reasons why he thought the first one wasn't successful, the second one was, people are much more interested in calls in the summer rather than the winter. Which you'd think, as a company owner, you would have done that market research beforehand. Second, they had a group of passionate supporters from their first campaign. And you can see there he's mentioned share among their friends, which is a huge benefit and a huge plus point for any campaign. Third, so they improved the design a little and took a more targeted marketing approach. So there you can also see that he focused his video on the key features offered. So what we can take from that is, first point, know your product. So setting your launch dates. If you're working for a Coolest Cooler, launch it in the summer when people are going to be looking for that. If you're launching a ski boot or a ski wearable, do it in the ski season. People often focus their launch date on when they're looking to deliver. So they're going to set their campaign early so that the delivery day is when people are going to be looking to use these products. But people don't think that far ahead. And so people look for the Coolest Cooler. They're out summer and they think, I would really like one of those. And that's why they back. Also, something important about the launch date is just beware of the landscape. So don't launch, we've got MWC coming up, don't launch your campaign during MWC. If you want people to come through from any publications that write up your launch, the noise around MWC, CES, IFA, you're not going to be heard. Also, to know how to describe your product. So you should be able to describe your product in one sentence. If you called up your grandma and told her what your product was, would she be able to understand it? Making it that kind of clear is really, really helpful for appealing to mainstream. And so, to go on to a second point, know your audience. And a really great way to be able to work out who your audience would be is through Facebook advertising. So, Facebook makes it really, really easy for people to go on to narrow down different markets by location, by what they're interested in, by what pages they've liked previously. And it also really helps with your wording and to work out the messaging that you should use on the Kickstarter page. And so you can set up a number of different Facebook adverts with different wording, different images, see which ones are the most successful. You can set, what you want the actions to be from these ads. And so what we found really useful in the past is for it to take the advert to take you to a landing page. It doesn't give away too much of the information, enough to know that the people who sign up on the landing page, put their email address in, become part of your email marketing group, that they're really interested, so that in the future they will go on to back. So that leads us on to the mailing list. So we say that it's really important to have a mailing list before you start your campaign. As you can see from what he said, he already had a list of email addresses. He already had an audience from his first campaign that he was then able to use for his second campaign to help spread the word. So how can you build your mailing list? Attending lots of events, people that come up to the stand, offering them a place for them to enter their email address, to keep them updated through your newsletter. But making sure that people who sign up to your mailing list are relevant. We've worked with companies in the past who have bought some email addresses, or have done a competition via Twitter or Facebook with a prize that's not necessarily relevant to their product. And so then you see that the conversion rate from your email marketing list to your Kickstarter backers is very low. So it's always best to keep everything that you're doing very targeted to make sure that you get a really high conversion rate. I think the average is about 5%, so 5% of your marketing list will then go on to back your campaign. Third point is creating the best collateral. So this includes the video. The video, we always say, typically should be very short and should be very, very obvious about what your project is. A lot of the plays that you'll see from the Kickstarter video are from other publications. So publications will embed their video in an article. And you don't have your Kickstarter page or all the information on there to be able to explain what your project is. You've got an article and you've got your video. So you need to make sure that video really, really gets across what it is, who you are, and what you're looking to do. Also images. We like to say that the images should be quite aspirational. If people are going onto your Kickstarter page and they want to potentially back your product, having a photo of the real working prototype, not renderings, really helps. With the landscape of the market as it is at the moment, showing backers that you have a real working product really increases their trust in you as a company and in your brand. Also, the rewards. So this is pledge levels on Kickstarter and perk levels on Indiegogo. It's important for backers to know exactly how they can support the campaign. So it's whether they want to almost pre-order your product straight away, or if they want to support. Some people just back the smaller amounts, so it's good to have them on there so that they get the updates throughout the campaign. And then towards the end, if you've hit your goal, or if they have bought into you as a company or the product, then they go and back. So it's important to have a range of those pledge levels. It's also really important to set your goal at a reasonable amount. So Grepper from Coolest Cooler said that he originally asked for 125,000. He then, on his second campaign, lowered it to 50,000. Obviously, if this isn't feasible for you as a business, it's not advisable. But the lower the goal that you can do is what is always advised. The story that the media like to convey is that you've hit your goal very, very early on, and then you'll get another load of articles, you get more publications that write about you, and people tend to, it's that psychology of backing a winning horse. So if you've hit your goal early on, that encourages more people to share, more people to back. But obviously, as I say, it needs to be viable for you as a business. So for projects like Kickstarter, if you hit your funding goal, then you are expected to be able to deliver something. So it's not like Indiegogo where you can set your funding goal at a certain level, and then if you don't hit it, you still get to keep that money. Kickstarter is very different, and people are expecting a product back from you. Also, what other additional support is available? So there are certain perks from each platform, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and it's worth speaking to both platforms before you decide on the one that you would eventually like to go with. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo both have newsletters that go out to a huge, huge audience, and included in those newsletters is a real boost to your campaign. We've seen, tens of thousands of pounds just from it being included in either newsletter. But it's also worth noting that they do both come with fees. So I know earlier it was mentioned that that crowdfunding can now make it feeless for you to take your idea to market, but there are costs involved. So for example, Kickstarter at the end of your campaign will take their fee, and whatever payment method that they're using will take their fee as well. So it's worth bearing in mind when setting their funding goal. But it's always worth playing one off against the other if you are speaking to the two of them, because it could be that they weren't planning on including you in their newsletter in the beginning, but if you mention that you would like to go with them, then that can be arranged. Indiegogo also say that you're more likely to be included in their newsletter if you reach 30% of your funding goal in the first day. This brings me on to the media landscape. So when we first started working with crowdfunding campaigns, the media were very, very happy to speak about all of the new innovations that were happening and all of the interesting products. That has grown stale recently, and the media have become a lot more tired with crowdfunding projects. So a lot of the journalist friends that we have say that the majority of their inbox is filled up with everybody having a crowdfunding campaign. So it's important to know what makes you stand out, and that could be either working with a PR agency, with the companies who have those relationships, or as I mentioned to somebody earlier, hosting a demo day, inviting people down, and that way you can separate yourselves from just being another email in an inbox. Just quickly, it's a great way to create your community. I mentioned that we work with 3Doodler. 3Doodler now have an absolutely incredible community from that first campaign. They then went on to launch the 2.0 pen, and that was the 2.0 was based on designs and from the first campaign that people said, I really wish it was a bit thinner, or I really wish it had this function. And then that's what they incorporated in the 2.0 pen. And they've recently just launched a third iteration, which is for children, all based on feedback from their community. So don't just think of it as a way to raise money, it's also a great way to start building your community really, really early on. That's all, if anybody has any questions.
What's the most successful campaign you've worked on?
So we worked on a project called the Micro, which is a 3D printer, and that raised $3.4 million. It was a consumer 3D printer, so at the time of launch they had an early bird price level that was, it essentially made the 3D printer cheaper than an iPhone on the market at the moment. So that worked well.
What was your strategy for getting that?
So for this campaign we actually, it was about a year and a half ago I think, and so we worked with journalists at Engadget to give Engadget the exclusive. So there was a time that the campaign was about to go live, and we gave Engadget an interview exclusively, and they posted their article 15 minutes before all of the other publications were allowed to. So we then could see Kickstarter's got a really nice back end where it says it allows you to see where the money's coming in from. So we could see exactly how much the Engadget article has raised. And the printer's funding goal was $50,000, and it hit the funding goal in 11 minutes. So just from that one Engadget article, it raised over $50,000 in 11 minutes. So it's realising the potential that media and the media articles have is quite important. Anybody else? Hi.
How much does it cost to use a PR agency to run a campaign?
Every PR agency is different. Our standard rates are £7,000 per month, and we work on a 3-month contract.
Can you take a commission as well?
No. So recently we have been working with companies who, we understand that for a startup, £7,000 is quite a significant amount of money. So we have been working, if we think that the project's really interesting, or if we really think the team is going to be very successful, then we have kind of worked more on their terms. So if they are willing to work on a commission basis, and that's something that we've done over the last couple of months. But before that, we're very strict on a £7,000 a month, and that's what we were a startup ourselves, and we understand that in early stages of business, it's important to know your outgoings and how much that's going to be. If we want to charge a percentage, it's then difficult for startups to factor that into then how much they're going to raise and what's going to be taken out. So for us to say this is how much you're going to have to pay us each month, we find that works better for them to be able to organise, their finances.
So what do you actually do for the 7,000?
Can we do that? We're going to have to probably wrap up on this and maybe take that offline after.
Okay.
We're going to go to some networking or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all right?
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Laura.
No worries.
Thank you very much.